And good afternoon, producer Susan. How are you doing today? What, December 30th,
It's the eve of New Year's Eve.
Eve of Christmas. Also, I understand somebody's having a birthday this week. That wouldn't be
Yep.
you, would it?
The 29th or the 20th anniversary of my 29th birthday.
Very good for you. Oh, good. All right. Well, happy birthday.
Thank you.
Um, all right. So, by the way, I got a surprise for you in today's agenda. So, you
Oh,
want to hear what we're going to talk about here? But this is our last show of 2025, by the way.
yeah,
And
what's
I
on
have
the
a
agenda?
Well, I got a special that's going to surprise you. Anyway, um, our quote of this week actually is going to be a video clip of talk show host Bill Maher talking about the effects of capitalism and socialism on the economies of different countries around the world. Bill Maher is starting to sound more and more like a conservative every day. We actually have two clips from Bill Maher today. That's going to be one of them. He's going to be the quote of the week. Stupidest thing I've heard all week is a story from the Huffington Post that ran just before Christmas holidays, giving advice to liberals on how to, quote, deprogram their MAGA friends and family members during family gatherings. Most ridiculous story I ever read. We'll tell you what their advice to liberals are. Um, we'll tell you about trends among the U.S. population with regard to the percentage of the population that still claims to have religious affiliation and what percentage still attend church on a regular basis. There's some very interesting and actually disappointing trends. Um, as I mentioned a moment ago, we actually have a second clip from Bill Maher explaining why he and his guests agree with President Trump that it's time to defund public broadcasting networks like PBS and NPR. Can you agree that Bill Maher and his guests are agreeing with President Trump? I mean, maybe somebody snuck in and they replaced him with a clone or something. That's Bill Maher agreeing with President Trump. This
Yeah.
can't be the Bill Maher that we all know, right? All right. Um, we'll start with a story about a lake in Alaska that is releasing massive amounts of methane into the atmosphere every single day, and why that naturally occurring release makes some of the stringent environmental regulations imposed on oil and gas companies absolutely pointless when you learn how much Mother Nature is releasing into the atmosphere, and then you say, why are we imposing on these regulations on oil and gas companies when Mother Nature is dwarfing uh, what oil and gas companies accidentally release with natural releases. Um, we'll also tell you about the proliferation of AI generated racist videos and why you shouldn't be so quick to share things on social media um, sites just because they support your confirmation bias. We all know what confirmation bias is,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
You want to believe it because it's something that
Yep.
supports something you believe. But a lot of these videos are actually AI generated and they're fake. And don't embarrass yourself. I'm also going to talk about why you should be very, very careful about what you share. We've all heard about the massive taxpayer fraud going on in Minnesota. It's up over $9 billion now, everything from SNAP benefits to child daycare to housing the homeless. Well, we're going to share with you and ask why the state of Minnesota wasn't able to uncover this massive fraud when one social media blogger so easily found it. And here's the surprise for you. You probably didn't see the news this morning, but there was a news article on CBS that talked about the huge backlog for service dogs to assist to assist those in needs and what you can do to help.
I
And it does.
didn't know, I didn't see the news, but I that's nothing new. That's been the standard
Okay.
for many, many years.
But they did a story on what you can do to help ease that backlog and has nothing to do with you donating money.
Mhm.
And last but not least, our taxpayer relief shot. This is a great one for the end of the year. Is from Fowlerville, Michigan, where a woman's estranged husband, who was armed with a gun, breaks into the home of her new boyfriend in the middle of the night, and how that break in worked out for him. So anyway, so you think we're going to fit that all in?
That seems like an awful lot.
I know. That's why we're going to try to get right to it. All right, here's our quote of the week. Bill Maher, and by the first thing, he's going to talk about a graphic that you can't see. He's going to show a video, or excuse me, a picture from a satellite picture of North Korea versus South Korea. And in the picture, you've seen this. South Korea is all lit up. It looks like a Christmas tree. and North Korea is black, like somebody turned out the lights because basically they have no businesses, they have no electricity. So here is Bill Maher um, the impacts of capitalism versus socialism on the countries of the world. Here we go.
Candidates. Here's capitalist South Korea at night from space. Here's socialist North Korea. In 1990, Venezuela was wealthier than Poland. But then Poland, finally free of Soviet-style economics, went all in on capitalism. And now their economy is as big as Japan. Meanwhile, Venezuela traded capitalism for Hugo Chavez's socialism for the 21st century. It turned one of Latin America's richest countries into one of its poorest. If you think New York can somehow reinvent this wheel, you're in for a rude awakening. You can't make
Wait, you know that.
your wishes come true. You're thinking of Zoltar.
Bill Maher tears into.
Anyway, yeah, Zoran can't make your wishes come true. And then he shows, remember at the carnival, he used to have Zolt that tell you if you put a nickel in
Mhm.
or a quarter in, and they tell you you get a fortune. And he says that was Zoltan,
Mm.
the carnival guy. Anyway, so that was Bill Maher. That's our quote of the week on Zoran can't make your wishes come through. All right. So, stupidest thing I've heard all week. So, here's the Huffington Post giving advice, and this advice came from a quote cult expert. Um, and this is the story they gave to their liberal followers. Huffington Post is just a complete liberal rag. That's how, and it was titled "How to Deprogram MAGA Friends and Family Members at Family Gatherings." Um, uh, Deprogramming, you have to deprogram. Anyway, here's the advice. It's first of all, it starts with the flawed assumption that everything that you believe, you the liberal believe is 100% accurate, and everything that they believe is inaccurate. That advice includes, quote, remember that a lot of people are generally ensnared by manipulative systems of belief. They didn't choose misinformation so much as fall into it, often due to loneliness, fear, or a need for significance. Their suggestions include these ways to respond. And this is what you're supposed to say to, if you're a liberal, what you're supposed to say to your conservative friend. I've looked into this and it's actually been widely debunked. Would you be open to reading a source that I trust? That's one. And then it goes on. And I know this feels true to you, but it's coming from a site known for disinformation. Can I share with you why I'm concerned? Uh, he adds that these people have been brainwashed and attacking or coming at them with hostility is only going to make them retreat further into their own belief system. Now, one of the problems I have from this is exactly the opposite. When I deal with liberal people and, particularly online, they are the ones who have been ensnared by manipulative systems of belief. They didn't choose misinformation, as fell into it. Um, and they suffer from confirmation bias. They read nonsense on some of these liberal sites like Americans for Tax Fairness and Being Liberal, and they swallow it hook, line, and sinker. And they'll come at me, well, what you believe is wrong, and here's why. And they tell me, well, your sources are not reliable. Well, I don't get my information from Fox News. I get my information from the IRS, the U.S. Treasury, the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics. I do not get my information from Fox News, but they're telling me my information is wrong when all of it comes from, or the Federal Reserve Bank is another one I use. So when they tell me my information is wrong because they read it on being some Facebook liberal site, my jaw drops open. I don't know. Have you ever encountered that where somebody tells you you're wrong and they're quoting some ridiculous statistic? Have you ever
Oh
encountered
yeah, all the time.
all the time? And they believe they're right. Mark Twain once said, "It's easier to fool somebody than to convince them they've been fooled." Um, and I know we've had some quotes from Thomas Sowell about that they're so justified in their arrogance of their disinformation, their sense of moral superiority. They believe they're right, even though what they're quoting and what they believe is based on utter nonsense. So that's the stupidest thing I've heard all week is a Huffington Post giving advice to liberals on how to deprogram their conservative friends and relatives. What do you think?
Yeah, yeah. You can't do it.
You can't you can't do
You
it,
can't
particularly
argue with people who ate paste as a child,
no, but
but yet
but
you do it all the time.
but these are the pace-eating people trying to tell other people that they're wrong. So all right. Now, don't get me wrong, there are some conservatives who have read some of this stuff that's not correct, but sometimes it's the ignorant arguing with the ignorant, and they both think they're right, and neither one's going to give an inch. So anyway, all right. Let's talk about church attendance and religious affiliation, two entirely different things.
Mhm.
Religious affiliation is people saying, if you say, hey, do you identify, that you're affiliated with a particular religion? And that's different than saying, do you go to church regularly? You can say, yes, I'm a Protestant. I believe, I'm Protestant, Protestant values. I brought up with them, and I believe the teachings of the Protestant church. But do you go to church regularly? That's a different question entirely.
Mhm. Yep.
What percentage of adults today uh, say they don't have any religious affiliation whatsoever? You want to take a guess?
Oh, I don't know. I want to say 10%. Are we talking
30%.
Americans though?
Yeah, in North America, 30% say they have that
Wow.
they don't identify as a Christian, as a Jew, as a Catholic, or as a Protestant, or as a Hindu or a Buddhist. 30% of the people, 3 out of 10, say, no, I don't have any religious affiliation. I don't follow the teachings of any church, any religion. I'm not Muslim, I'm not Buddhist, I'm not Jewish, I'm not, Catholic, I'm not Protestant. That was surprising. And here's the other one that uh, follow and today church attendance, which had at one point up until 1976 always been north of 70%, and this includes teenagers. Today that figure has fallen from 70% regularly attended church in 1976 up until 1976. Today that figure has fallen to just 40%.
I'm
Only
not
four.
surprised by that, sadly. I think that's one of the things that's regardless of what your religion is, that people have just lost touch with whatever it is they believe in.
Yep, and it doesn't surprise me, but here's something shocking. I actually looked at the number of mass shootings per year over the past 50 years. Do you know that there's a perfect inverse correlation between the drop in church attendance and the increase in mass shootings?
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
Now, I think I may have mentioned this before. When I was a teenager, Um, I used to work at my grandparents' cattle ranch in the summer, and we had a bunch of, 14, 15, 16-year-old kids would help us, stack hay during the day. And when we're all done around, 4:30, 5 o'clock, getting ready for dinner, I'd say, hey, Bob, you want to go shoot some woodchucks after dinner? And there wasn't a single kid on that street didn't have access to a loaded rifle.
Yeah.
Every single kid on that street had access to a loaded rifle. In fact, at the local high school, um, because I used to be up there sometimes when I was up there, like in spring break. My spring break was not the same week as their spring break. If you drove by their high school, half the trucks, the pickup trucks in the parking lot, particularly, I'm sorry, particularly around the winter break, because they were deer hunters, they didn't want to have to, and the sun set early at 4:30. Half the pickup trucks in the parking lot had a rifle in the back window because when they left school, they wanted to go right to their favorite deer hunting spot. They didn't want to have to go home and get their gun. And I told you, I used to take my rifle. I used to be on the rifle team. I used to take my rifle to school twice a
Mhm.
week. The
Yep.
difference is back then, every one of those 15-year-old kids, you would see them on church on Sunday.
Mhm.
And I think that's a huge fact, not the only factor, but I think it was a huge factor because they had this sense of right and wrong that they got
Mhm.
from their church.
I think
So,
there's this level of respect too that we're missing, just general respect.
yeah.
How many of those kids actually wanted to be in church? Probably not. They probably all wanted to be out shooting groundhogs. But there's this level of respect. Your elders said this is what we do on Sundays. We get dressed, we go to church, we spend
Mhm.
time together as a family. There's just this like values system has broken down in America.
Yeah. And you had by and large intact families. I think if you take a look, uh, not 100%, but more than half of these mass shooters, um, come from broken homes where they didn't have a father figure in the home.
Mhm.
Because there was, the father, sense of right and wrong, morality, this is right, this is wrong, we don't do that. So I think that's another factor. So I think it's the lack of church attendance and the lack of an intact family. Those two things have
Mhm.
collided to where, unfortunately, mass shootings are, probably 500% more common today than they were 50 years ago. But access to guns has actually decreased. So yet access to guns has declined, yet mass shootings have increased.
Mhm.
Well, what is the reason? Clearly, it isn't the easy access to guns because there was no easier time to buy a gun than 50 years ago. That's before a lot of these, current gun laws, background check. In fact, I remember when I bought my first gun, I didn't have to do a background check. I was 18 years old, didn't have to do a background check. That's fairly new in this country. So that's just a couple of trends I think were worth mentioning.
Mhm.
All right, you want to go back to Bill Maher?
Yeah.
All right,
I'm
here,
liking him more and more these days.
yeah. All right, now here's Bill Maher. He's got a guest, and he's talking about, President Trump's decision, executive order to defund public broadcasting in the form of National Public Radio and PBS. And here's Bill Maher on why he agrees with Trump.
Of NPR and PBS testified before Congress this week amid accusations of liberal bias. Should the government continue to send taxpayer dollars to public broadcasters? Well, a little background here. I mean, they've been after them the Republicans have wanted to get rid of PBS for as long as I can remember. This crowd will probably do it. I mean, I also read my namesake, Catherine Marr, was head of NPR, and she said, "We're completely unbiased. Give me a break, lady." I mean, they're crazy far left. So, I mean, I think my view, we're past the age, really, where the government, first of all, why do we need to subsidize? Why can't we have outlets like this? And we're so polarized. These outlets became popular at a time when Republicans and Democrats didn't hate each other and weren't at each other's throats and didn't think each other was an existential threat. In that world, you can't have places like this, I think, anymore. They have to be private.
Yeah, I think Yuri Berliner, ex-NPR employer, his piece
Right.
this week,
Whistleblower.
where he said that they should just let go of the funding. I love NPR. I listen to NPR almost every day, have since 1975 when my parents used to play it in our Chevrolet Caprice when I was like 9 years old. I love it for its point of view, but since 2020, it has no longer been general. I remember in 2021, my then 9-year-old asked me, and of course, she has no sense of context. I don't pump her full of things like this. She said from the back seat in a very different car, she said, "Daddy, why is it that NPR is always playing the same thing?" And I said, "What do you mean the same thing?" And I swear she said, now she doesn't have a vocabulary, but she said, "It's always about how somebody can't do something." And that's what she was getting at was that. I wouldn't have said that about the NPR that I knew back in the day, and I wouldn't have said it 10 years ago, but that is what it is now. I will listen to it daily, but it's no longer a general audience venue. They should
Right.
just give up national funding. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Have you ever listened to NPR regularly at any time in your life?
I don't listen to it regularly. I'll listen to it if I know that there's going to be something on that I want to listen to.
Yeah, I used to listen to the Car Talk program, and they had another
Mhm.
one, Garrison Keillor, American Stories, I think it was. But man, it's gone so political
Mhm.
and so biased. And what he said about people not getting it's always about, well, so and so is going to lose this benefit, so and so is going to lose access to abortion, so and so is going to lose Medicaid, or it's just I mean, it's just so clearly anti-conservative bias now that it's really hard to watch. Hey, how much time we got?
Oh, we got about 15 minutes.
Okay, good. So we're plowing through this. All right.
Yeah.
So, by the way, I've seen some fake videos, and you literally can't tell they're fake. And here's this is a story from Axios about and people are creating fake racist videos, and you literally they've taken they've created a, for instance, they've taken created a picture of a black woman supposedly giving instructions on how she is intentionally scamming the government out of SNAP benefits. Um, and she's bragging about how she's gaming the system. It's all fake. It's absolutely fake. But people are saying, it goes on to say the videos not only continue the racist stereotype that black women are welfare queens relying on governments for free money, but seemingly influence users in comments that turn against the SNAP program overall. Now, don't get me wrong. Is there SNAP abuse and welfare abuse?
Absolutely,
Yes,
there is.
absolutely there is. And are there people who are proud of it and teaching others how to do it? Absolutely. But the point is, very few of them, uh, set up a professional camera and recite a carefully scripted message, to post on TikTok. These are fake videos, folk. And so while it may be going on, if you post this video as really, see, here's a black woman
Mhm.
telling other black women how to scam the system, you're going to embarrass yourself because it isn't real. Okay, it's fake. So please, just because you saw a video, of somebody, of a black woman giving instructions on how to scam the system. Um, yes, while the underlying, yeah, why does it happen and is it true? Yes, but the videos are fake. Please don't embarrass yourself by posting those videos as if they were real. And in fact, one user who had ID'd a video that they had shared as a fake still encouraged others to share it because it justified their viewpoints about alleged SNAP fraud. Again, this is confirmation bias at its worst. You know it's a fake, and yet you encourage others to share a video that you know is fake. So please don't do that. You hurt the conservative cause when you do that. All right. Any thoughts on that before we move on?
Yeah, no, the AI, the fake, yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay.
I have so much to say.
All right. By the way, I skipped right over this one. Hang on. Am I out of order here? All right. No, Minnesota's massive. Well, there's a blogger, YouTube guy named Nick Shirley. Have you ever heard of him?
I don't think I have.
Well, he's famous. He's done some videos that have gotten 30 million views. And here's a really short one. We've all heard about the incredible amount of fraud taking place up in Minneapolis, Minnesota. $9 billion worth of fraud carried out by various people from Somalia. I mean, it's housing fraud, it's SNAP fraud, it's daycare fraud. And this was like 6 months ago. He started this. He went out, and he's a young guy. He looks like he's 22, 23 years old. And it starts off, he's outside of a daycare center. And the sign outside, it says quality Leering Center. It's supposed to be learning, L-E-R. But when they had the sign made up, they left out the N, so it doesn't. So it's supposed to say Quality Learning Center. The sign above the door says Quality Leering Center.
Proofreaders? Where was their proofreader?
Proofread. Now, and it's a block building with no cars in the parking lot, and the door is locked. No, and this is middle of the week on a work week. And here he is. And so let's play Nick Shirley.
In Minnesota, massive fraud is taking place within the government and the Somali population. Here, this building alone, Quality Learning Center, is a daycare, yet they spelled learning wrong and they said leering. This daycare alone in 2025 has received $1.9 million from the government.
Little block building, $1.9 million in 1 year. It's a daycare center, government dollars.
The strange things about these childcare centers is there's no one here right now. It's midday on a weekday. If you were to try to go inside, it's completely closed and the windows are all blacked out. No one's working. Midday, children should be in here. And this place is licensed for 99 children. And this is the outside. There's no windows, no nothing. And like I said, they literally spelled the word wrong on their sign. This is open and blatant fraud taking place here inside of Minnesota. The government is complicit with this, and this is just one of the hundreds of child daycare centers here inside of Minneapolis being ran by the Somali population. It's sad that it's happening here in Minnesota, and it stinks that it's happening and it's being labeled on the Somali population. However, that's just the facts of what's happening here inside of Minnesota. $1.9 million for this daycare center that can't even spell learning right.
So, what's really startling is this, and this kid started, I can only get, again, he's like, he can't be older than 23. How could this kid find it? And the state of the state of Minnesota couldn't
Yeah.
find it.
Yeah.
It just blows my mind.
I'm also surprised that, and I've known this for quite some time though, that Minnesota is such a melting pot for the Somalians.
Yep.
I was like, why would somebody coming from a Somalian climate to want to go to a Minnesota climate?
Well,
But hey.
for whatever reason, that's where they wound up. So anyway, all right, let's move on to a little. You have a background in earth science, don't you?
Yep.
Well, scientists in Alaska, somebody told them about a lake that was bubbling, like the water was boiling. So they went up there to look, and they found the lake, and they went out in a boat, and yes, it was bubbling, bubbling, bubbling all over, bubbles coming up. So they took some samples, and they discovered that the bubbles were actually methane. And methane, for those who don't know, is natural gas. It's
Natural
basically
gas.
the stuff that comes out of your stove. So,
And your sewer pipes.
and your sewer pipes,
and your
right.
cows.
Right. And here's just a quick clip of what they discovered. I want you to listen when they tell you when they calculated how much methane per day was being released by this one lake. This is Mother Nature. And here we go. And again, this was PBS, Public Broadcasting, the show Nova. It's like their science program, Nova. And here we go.
It's just mysterious. It looks like a jacuzzi. And so you get up to it and you can hear these boom, boom.
Like the water is boiling around you.
On their first visit, the team wanted to investigate what's causing the bubbles.
We took gas samples and then those were sent to the lab for analysis, and they found that it is a super high amount of methane.
Methane leaks, known as seeps, have been found elsewhere in the Arctic, but they're usually much smaller. The team's measurements reveal that Easy Lake is belching out over 10 tons of methane every day.
10 tons of methane gas every single day.
And you said this was up in Alaska, right?
That's in Alaska.
I mean, this is actually a popular occurrence up in the frozen tundras, the Arctic.
Yep.
Because of the frozen nature of that geography, it's common to happen in these colder climates like Alaska.
Yep. And if you go on, any lake that has a vegetation, there's all such you go on YouTube and there's videos where people go out on a frozen lake and they chop a little hole in the ice, like you'll see like little bubbles under the ice, and they chop a hole in the ice, and then they take a road flare, and they get this huge flame. Well, you know what that is? Where that came from?
It's the methane. It's
the methane coming from vegetation. In this case, by the way, it was a fissure. It was a fissure down into the earth. By the way, whenever you have coal, you're gonna have methane. Because methane and coal occupy the same. And in a lot of places, you only have to go down 20 feet. Well, there was a fissure at the bottom of this lake that went down an extra 20 or 30 feet, and it hit the coal bed, under the lake, and boom. But this is 10 tons of methane a day, every day, for God knows how many hundreds of years. Now, have you ever driven by like an oil refinery or an oil field at night and seen flames coming out the top of?
Yeah.
Well, that's called flare gas, because when you're pumping oil, there's also methane mixed in with the oil. And what the oil companies traditionally did, methane, by the way, is far more damaging to the atmosphere in terms of being a greenhouse gas than CO2. So what they would do is they would flare it off. They would ignite it and let it flare. And they would convert the very harmful methane into relatively innocuous CO2. But now more and more government, oh no, you can't flare that. You have to spend millions of dollars to capture that, that residual methane, which is tiny compared to what this lake is putting out. So they're driving up the price of gas and driving up the price of oil. Meanwhile, Mother Nature says, hold my beer, watch this. I mean, that's basically where we are. All right. I want to get to this next one because it's about service dogs, and here we go. This was on CBS this morning.
They're not only man's best friend. For thousands of Americans, they're a lifeline. As the need for service animals grows across the country, wait lists are getting longer and longer. Gwen Baumgartner reports from Oceanside, California, where an organization is urgently searching for volunteers. Magic Hill. Meet Magic, a precocious pup on the path to become a service dog.
The dogs can do things like open doors, pick up items, our PTSD. Service dogs also interrupt nightmares. They can turn on lights in a room.
Paige Mazzoni leads Canine Companions, a nonprofit that trains and provides service dogs free of charge, with a wait list of up to 2 years. According to the CDC, 1 in 4 Americans live with a disability, but less than 1% have a service dog. Good girl. At Canine Companions, Mazzoni says there's not a lack of teachable pups, there's a lack of puppy raisers.
We get them at 8 weeks. They are tiny. This one was a little fluff ball.
Puppy raisers are people like Mary Siegel, who foster future service dogs for a little over a year.
One of the most important roles of a puppy raiser is exposing their dog to new environments, parks, restaurants, places with crowds, something that their dog might have to navigate as a service dog.
Volunteers take them home as puppies, but give the dogs back when they're old enough for formal training.
I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It's one of the hardest things that you'll do. It was really the beginning of something much bigger.
Natalie News leads this California training center and says the volunteer shortage is a growing national crisis.
We can't function without them. We need puppy raisers to be able to fulfill our mission. And so they are the heroes for us, for sure.
Magic. The puppy raisers often say, be careful. If you raise a puppy, the life you change might be your own.
Very good. There's something pretty magical about that. Gwen Baumgartner, CBS News, Oceanside, California.
So, of course, you probably nothing near you and you didn't know. Have you been a puppy raiser?
Oh, man, I think we're up to 135 puppies. Yeah,
Well,
Canine Companions, they're actually one of our breeding partners. So we're an accredited organization as they are. And as part of our accreditation, we actually breed with other accredited organizations to breed for those best qualities while maintaining genetic diversity. But that is a national problem, regardless of organization. That is a national problem.
right. So it's not a shortage of dogs, it's a shortage of puppy raisers.
It's
right.
a shortage. It's not the shortage. As a matter of fact, we just had a litter born just today. We had 2 litters born Thanksgiving week. So yeah, we've got plenty of puppies.
Okay.
But it's
All right.
it's a one-on-one.
All right. Well,
And the waiting list, the national average for those waiting lists is 4 to 5 years.
Yeah, and I will post that link to your Facebook page if you want to share it with somebody else. All right. We probably only get, a couple of minutes left?
Yep.
All right, we're going to go right to our taxpayer relief shot. Now think about this. Your estranged husband, who you're legally separated from, breaks into the home of your new boyfriend with a gun in the middle of the night. Here we go.
Confrontation on this Christmas Day, this time in Fowlerville.
The Livingston County Sheriff's tells us the woman's estranged husband broke into a home and shot the homeowner, a man that she was visiting.
That homeowner.
Now, the first thing that happened is the boyfriend, the homeowner, got shot by the guy with the gun. He didn't fire first. The other guy fired first. He got shot, and if he wasn't able to defend himself, he'd probably be dead. So here we go again.
Husband broke into a home and shot the homeowner, a man that she was visiting.
That homeowner was able to fight back, and it may have saved his life as well as the woman's.
Happened in Fowlerville, like we mentioned, on North Nicholson Road near Converse. 7 News Detroit reporter Jolie Sherman is hearing from neighbors in this deadly shooting and has more on a motive that may have been rooted in jealousy.
The Livingston County Sheriff's Office says they're still in the very early stages of the investigation, but they say at this point, everything points to self-defense.
Just sitting in the house, heard a volley of shots, 4, maybe 5.
Shortly after 7 p.m. on Christmas Day, the Livingston County Sheriff's Office responded to a 911 call from a homeowner who'd been shot inside his home on Nicholson Road in Fowlerville.
Didn't, we're in the country, didn't think anything of it. And then a little after 7, lights and sirens and everything. And I'm like, oh, geez, where's this at? It's close. And it was right across the street.
Deputies say a man broke into the home and fired multiple shots at the homeowner, striking him twice. A woman who was visiting was not injured.
All right, we got the homeowner outside the garage right now. He's complaining of 2 gunshots, one in his arm, one in his abdomen.
Deputies say the homeowner returned fire, striking the suspect, who was pronounced dead at the scene. According to the Livingston County Sheriff's Office, the suspect was the estranged husband of the woman who was visiting the homeowner, and he drove an hour from the Lake Orion area to Fowlerville. Deputies found the suspect's pickup truck parked a short distance away from the house where he shot the homeowner.
When I saw out the front door was about up at one time up to a dozen police cars and fire department.
All right, we can end it there. I know we're running short on time, but by the way, that's why. So the homeowner got shot first. He returned fire. His shots were fatal. It goes to show you range time matters, right?
Yeah,
if you're going to carry a gun practice. All right, we're probably running out of time, so I want to thank everybody listening to this podcast. It's the last one of the year. Thank you for giving up your time. Hope you, if you like them, you continue to listen next year. We'll be back next week. If you want to see some materials or story links you heard me talk about today, give producer Susan a day or two, and she'll have all those links up on the Jerzee Joe website at jerziejoe.com. Just remember to spell Jersey with a J-E-R-Z as in zebra, E-E, jerziejoe.com. If you'd like to get on our mailing list, so you don't have to go search for the podcast, which you can find on Spotify or iPod, Apple Podcasts. That way I can just send you the podcast. You don't have to go search for them. If you'd like to have me send you one of those story links, just send me an email to joe@jerziejoe.com. Or if you'd like to get on the distribution list, just send me an email to joe@jerziejoe.com, and I'll put you on our weekly distribution list or answer your questions. And again, Jerzee is Jerzee. And with that, producer Susan, anything you want to add before we sign off for this year?
Nope. I hope you have a great new year.
You too, producer Susan, and be safe. I'll talk to you next year. Bye-bye.